there, and a very warm welcome to another mixed media tutorial with me, Lisa Taggart. I've decided to do another moonlit scene this week, and it's one where you can really go very detailed in the composition or scale it down. It's called Blossom Moon, and if you're interested in how this was created, let's just first of all look at the materials used. So to begin, for the card, I'm using again the Paul Rubens watercolour card this week. This is the one that has the twinkle in it. It's really good quality and I really enjoy using it. Also using the Stampers Anonymous moon mask again this week. They're really handy to have. For elements, we've got blue atoll, Bermuda, dark denim and midnight blue. And I think I also use olive green, which I've missed taking out there. We're also using some VersaFine Clair in Fallen Leaves and Fantasia, but a black one would do just as well. Pan pastels, which are optional in ultramarine blue, violet, turquoise, one of my favourites, and this pale phthalo green tint. But as I say, these are optional, or you can use pencils. Some masking fluid on the little brush, and also some white gouache again this week. I've got some sparkle in Waterfall Stickles, and in terms of the brushes, I'm using these makeup brushes that I use for crafting because they've got nice soft bristles and don't interfere with the masking gum. Also a couple of paint brushes, one flat and one round, and an applicator for the pastels. Posca pens as usual, some pinks, a green, a turquoise, a blue and a purple. I've got my fine liner gel pens in lilac, white and black. Some pastels for colouring in the fairy and the orbs. Some fleshy tones, white, yellow and a mint colour. I'm also using the Zig Clean Colour markers. I've got 3 blues there with dark, medium and light. I've got a dark and a pale pink, a couple of lilacs, cool tone and warm tone, and a pale green as well. Now for the stamps. We've got Tree of Courage, which is one of my favourites, Thorn Vine Corner, which is beautiful. We've got Everly, the little sitting fairy, and foliage from the foliage set. So if you want to convert all of those into something that looks a little bit like this, just keep on watching. I'm starting off today with 6 by 9.5 inches, but I do cut half an inch off in the end, so 6 by 9 would be big enough. In terms of the stamping, we're going to start with some of the initial composition components. So I'm using this corner as a sort of cliff edge, and I don't really want it to be very visible, and I'm taking off the edges, as you can see there, with my baby wipe and softening it a bit. Well, as you can see, I've added the masking fluid to the tree and the bottom half of the picture, the orbs and the leaves and also the blossom. And I decided also then at this point to stamp a bottom part of the picture using the thorn corner, and also to add additional branches to the top, and I used my copy paper to mask off sections to enable me to do that. And I'm going to now move on to the colouring, and what I'm doing is I'm adding basic layers of colour. Obviously there's a lot of contrast in this picture, from dark to very light, and the background ends up being quite dark so that you can see the contrast in the moon. And rather than start with the watercolour or use the ink pads as watercolours, what I'm going to do as a bit of an experiment really is to lay a few layers of all the colours that I need down onto the paper, and then I'm going to take a paintbrush and some water and I'm going to blend it onto the card. And at first it looks a bit strange, and that's why the blending isn't so refined, because I am going to blend it with water later. And it worked out quite well, and you go between then the wet layers and the dry layers, and from using a paintbrush and using the little brushes to blend, depending on whether the piece is wet or dry. And that gradually then builds up all the colours, and you'd wonder why in the end up you would use so many colours, but really in mixed media the colours peek through eventually and add to the richness of the piece. Now while the paper is still damp, I'm taking the opportunity to build up the colour down the left hand side because I don't want the left hand side of the moon to be visible. I want it to blend into the dark night sky and just keep the shape of the moon on the right hand side and make it stand out using lighter colours. As you can see, I added the blue atoll into the mix there, and now the piece is dry. And so that means I can take my brushes and then blend extra colour in to the card now that it is dry. And this builds up the richness of the colours and the tones. And as you can see, when it's dry, it looks an awful lot better now that it's been blended in. Now I'm using Fantasia because of the colour of this really. If I had this colour in Elements, I would have used the Elements, but it's this very particular purpley blue colour that I was after, and that's why I'm using the Fantasia. And I'm really just taking my little brush and blending wherever I want that sort of glowy purpley colour. And the reason I'm using these little makeup brushes instead of the Lavinia Stamps stencil brushes is that these are very soft, and it means that I'm not removing the masking fluid, which is still intact on the card at the moment. And then finally I'm moving to this very dark colour and adding that particularly to the top of the sky and some of the edges, and really drawing in the colour to the moon by gradually darkening around the outsides. Now hopefully this makes more sense. I have picked out the stamping underneath and used my white gel pen to highlight that, and then added some colour on top of the white to make it more misty and ethereal. I wanted the vines, if you like, to blend into the background and be sort of almost misty. Now I'm going to take my moon mask and brighten up the moon then at this stage. And one technique that I'm using a lot in this project is the blending of my white gel pen. You'll see me do that now when I'm trying to brighten up the moon. But also I'll do it in the tree. I've done it in the vines below. So this particular gel pen is a great one. It's the Uniball Signo Broad, and it is almost like having watercolour in a pen. And it just, if you catch it on time, you're able to take a brush and some plain water and blend it out. So that is one good thing about this particular gel pen. As I say, I'm going to be using it a lot and using that technique several times in this piece. Now, in terms of the cliff edge, at the moment, it sort of starts almost towards the centre of the page. But later on, and I think I do this off camera, I extend the line of the cliff edge back out to the left hand side to, I suppose, ground it a bit better than it is. The other thing is, of course, is you don't have to stamp the bottom half of the cliff. You could just leave it sort of hanging in the air, and that would be a lovely composition too, with lots of vines and plants coming off the bottom of it. And I nearly did that, maybe next time. So to blend that top area, I decided that the best thing to use would be the pan pastels in violet and ultramarine blue, and that gave me that sort of glowiness that I was after, that I tried to accomplish using the inks. So this is just to enhance it. I also realised that I wanted the moon to have turquoise in it, and I'd been trying to mix that colour, and I found that the Posca pen was best, and I just blended that in a bit like I did with the white gel pen. Now next up, I'm using this turquoise pan pastel, and I want to restore some of the mistiness to the cliff. That's how I'm achieving that, and I'm just dabbing it here and there, and then I really blend it back with my finger. So after much placing of little dots, the blossom is building up. I've also taken the green Posca pen and added in the leaves. And you don't have to do this dotty blossom that I have done. You can use some of your beautiful Lavinia stamps to achieve the blossom. So there's so many different types of stamp that are available that would build up blossom without having to do it by hand. I actually thought it would be quicker doing it that way, but when I think about it, there's some really lovely blossom type stamps that you could use as well. And now I'm just colouring in the tree and using my clean colour markers to blend into each other to achieve the sort of purpley, bluey colours that I want to really sort of blend with the overall colours of the picture. And I suppose you're wondering why I put pink in the moon, and the reason for that is I do want there to be colour harmony in the picture, and I'm mixing up the same colours in the tree, in the moon, as there are in the sky, etc. Now, in case you're wondering what this little blue applicator is, it's really a throwback to my days at Tattered Lace, and it is actually a glue applicator, and they do little packs of these, and they're really handy because they've got a little fluffy top, and they're great for blending small areas of pastel, I find, so that's what I'm using them for rather than glue. Now it is very tricky to do the little fairy because her surface area is so tiny and my pencils aren't that sharp, as you can see, so I do my best with particularly the face. It ends up taking on a life of its own, and after much fussing I decide to give her some clothes as well. I also repeated the stamping with a little branch using white gesso. I didn't show that on camera, and there are other videos where I've demonstrated that technique where you stamp into the white paint or gesso. So there you are, you have the dark and the light of the little branches. I also used this little foliage stamp to add some additional interest, as you can see. Now that the sparkle's been added, that's it complete. I hope you enjoyed coming along on this creative adventure with me today. I also added some stars with my white gel pen, all round about, little dots all over the top and a few down below as well. There was lots of dots in this picture, and as I said earlier, you could use stamps and just colour in the stamps to create the same effect. So if you enjoyed today's project, you learnt something or it's given you ideas, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell, the like button, leave me a comment. All that stuff is so helpful. So why not become a member of my channel and join me and others in our growing little creative community. Also check out my shop. All the links for these things are below and you can get more information there. But thank you so much for joining me today, and above all, take good care of yourselves, get creating, be brave and enjoy the adventure.